Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Out of the Groove Power Hour, presented by Circle B Diecast. I am your host, Eric Eastep, joined by NASCAR driver Brennan Poole. Brennan, say hi to all the fine folks out there in the internets.
Hey everyone, over the internet. How's it going? I hope it's going well, because it's going well over here. We've got an awesome show lined up for you guys and a lot of interesting topics to talk about. So I'm excited, plus an awesome guest that I'm excited to chat with too.
Absolutely. Spoiler alert, that guest is Rajah Caruth. I've known Rajah for a few years. Throwback, Brennan, to 2019. Actually, go to 2020. I met him in 2019, but in 2020, we actually did some pre-race live streams together during the NASCAR iRacing Series League. So we go back a ways, but it's been a while since we've gotten to really sit down and chat with Rajah. Now he's playoff bound for the Truck Series. We'll talk to him about that and so much more. But first, Brennan, we do have to thank our sponsor, CircleBDiecast.com. You can always use code OOTG for discounted shipping at CircleBDiecast.com. Brennan, I've got a special diecast to show off this week. You threw back to this paint scheme at, was it at Darlington, I guess? Yes, earlier this year during Throwback Weekend. It's Kyle Petty's Hot Wheels 44. I still got this. It's a 164 scale car. I still have it in the box, but this is a fun package because it comes with a little pit box next to it, which, I think that'd be kind of fun to bring some of that back in the modern day. Little accessories to go with the car, I think, is kind of a neat, little icing on the cake, cherry on top, and attention to detail. Almost threw this thing on the ground. It's nice, safe, and preserved in the packaging for now. But Brennan, do you have a diecast in your collection that you want to show us today?
Yeah, and I will say that our throwback did win best throwback. Shout out Ryan Pastana on the design. But
Yep.
and also it's really cool to have that little extra little pit box. They should do that more often, because imagine being a kid and being able to line up all your cars like you're going to go qualify, and you got all their little pit boxes parked behind them, and you're doing your whole thing. I mean, you know a little something about that and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, so many of you guys know, big Jeff Gordon fan over here. Started the same track he started at. So my collection is I got a lot of stuff in there. This is I believe this is the raced version where he won Martinsville. And look at that there. He signed it for me. How about
Ooh,
that?
on the hood.
Yeah, all right on the hood, which is usually on the windshield. But yeah, this one's on the hood. But this is cool. This is cool. I always, like, as a kid, like Martinsville, getting a race there. He won there a bunch. And it's like, this is
That's
cool.
awesome.
That raced version. I love the race versions, man.
Yeah.
They're so neat, and they look all dirty, and they got the donuts on them, and from all the beating and banging, and it's just yeah, super cool. So this is one of my favorite in my collection, and plus I love the flame era of the DuPont cars. They're just so cool. Think it's a great looking car.
I feel like flame paint schemes peaked in the mid 2000s. It's been hard to get back to that with other flame schemes. There've been some really good ones, but
Yeah, go check out my Frontline fire protection car. Okay, that flames on it.
that's
All
true.
right, over on the West Coast and at New Hampshire. I got another one coming up at Watkins Glen. Frontline, the flames are coming back,
All
baby. I
right,
don't.
all right. Gonna
Maybe it's just me. I like the flames. I can't
well,
help
I've
it.
seen
Some people don't.
I've seen some weak one like I actually think Jeff Gordon, the what was the bright green and yellow, was it like
The Nicorette.
Nicorette?
Hmm.
Those were some of my favorites. And then we've seen, like, I think the Speedy Cash cars in the Cup Series in the past had these little, like, measly flames coming off the side. It was like really like just a haphazard attempt at flames, and I was like, ugh, they're trying to be the Nicorette scheme so badly, and it's just falling flat in my opinion. I'm sorry. But okay, we'll check out your scheme at Watkins Glen in a few weeks. You have to refresh my memory. Maybe that one
Okay.
stands the test of time. Maybe that one works out. Before we get into things, Brennan, I had you say hi to all the fine folks on the internets at the start of the show, because this week at Daytona International Speedway, we won't be on the internet. We will be live in person at Daytona International Speedway. Once again, our friends at NASCAR will have invited us back to the NASCAR Experience stage. We will be live Friday afternoon at 4:30. You can come say hi. We'll be doing a short bit. Should have a fun conversation, talk racing, preview the very exciting Daytona race weekend. You'll be racing, of course, later that night. And we should have a special guest joining us and also maybe doing a live performance. Isn't he at your house right now, Brennan? What can
Yeah.
you tell us? Who's joining us this week?
Yeah, so one of my good friends, this just happened this year. We became friends this year and has become a NASCAR fan. It's actually was the sponsor last week at Michigan. His name is Younger One, but it's spelled, it's even hard for me to spell at this point still, but it's YXNGXR1. Go check him out on Spotify. He's got like, I mean, almost 500 million streams, and his music is really good. And been someone I've been listening to on the way to racetracks since 2019. And so now it's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, he's at my house. He's coming with us to Daytona, and he's going to be our guest on our live show, and he's going to play some songs for the audience. So,
Oh, heck
um,
yeah.
yeah, check him out. Come hang out and see our live show. Of course, we'll always come down and answer some questions and sign some autographs afterwards before I have to take off and jump in my cwandsons.com Mac door systems Chevy Clark's too. Shout out Clark's. But
Dang, that's a
yeah, we're gonna
mouthful.
go. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but it's going to be a great weekend, and plus, man, like I know we're going to talk about playoffs and stuff, but we almost won Talladega earlier in the year. Hopefully, we can have some stuff go our way, and we can be in position to win that race and get ourselves in the playoffs. We've been just outside for most of the year, but we've had a heck of a season working with our budget and the things that we have to work with. I think we've had a heck of a season, so be awesome to try to cap it off, get to victory lane, and be in the playoffs. So I'm excited about it, and all my family's going to be there, so even
I
more
can't
more
wait.
more fun. So yeah, it's going to be great.
I'm super excited. I love Daytona. It doesn't matter if it's February, July, August, it does not matter. Daytona is it's so exciting. So we can't wait to be live. Once again, that's 4:30 on Friday at the NASCAR Experience stage. Come for Brennan and I, stay for an epic performance by Younger One. Thank you all so much for the support. Really incredible that we get to do this live a few times a year now. But with that being said, Brennan, let's get into this episode here and now. Before Rajah joins us, we've got some hot button issues and topics to cover. So, since our last episode a couple weeks ago, Austin Dillon won at Richmond Raceway, but we then found out 3 days later his win would not count towards playoff eligibility. He crashed the 22, the 11 on the final lap. A lot of debate this week about, if Austin Dillon's moves crossed the line, should NASCAR penalize over aggressive driving? This seemed to be NASCAR setting a new precedent. Now, later this week after this episode comes out, the Richard Childress Racing appeal will be heard, so perhaps a new precedent could be set if somehow NASCAR's ruling is overturned. But I guess just first impressions, Brennan, we have not talked since Richmond just over a week ago. What did you make of Austin Dillon's move to win that race, and do you think NASCAR got the penalty correct?
I mean, it obviously was an aggressive move. And I know there's a lot of people that think, it's a little too much, especially if you're a Logano fan or a Denny Hamlin fan. Um, and it's tough to say. I'm glad I don't make these rules, but I've always believed that it's nice to just not really have like for them to make less calls on stuff like that
Sure.
and kind of limit the speculation of what was too much and what wasn't enough. And then I feel like you just start opening up like more problems when you start adding stuff. And I saw Jimmy Johnson's tweet after the race too, where he was just like, "Oh my gosh," it was like it's like seeing the three car do old Dale Earnhardt moves again. And I know and Dale Jr. was like, "I don't know if I've ever seen him clean out two on the last lap," like stuff like. But I still think um, that's entertainment, and as a sport, I hate to try to put rules in place that might cause there to be less entertainment, because at the end of the day, that's what this is about. But for the fans. But I agree that I mean there is a line, but I think the drivers have to live within that line themselves, and they have to, determine what's too much and not too much. And sometimes you're going to go over that line, and it's going to cause drama and storylines and rivalries and problems where we have these discussions. And I think that creates entertainment. So I think um, I I mean, I've been on both sides of it, right? I've moved somebody out of the way, spun somebody out to win a race before in my life, right? And as we've now seen 19 million clips of Joey Logano doing the same thing and Denny Hamlin doing the same thing, yet they get out and complain about it. I think that's what anyone is going to do. I think if Austin had been on the other side of it and got wrecked, he probably would get out and complain about it too, right? Like that's just
Well,
the sport.
Well, is there a difference between, we've seen plenty of drivers move guys, bump and runs. We've seen even spins here and there. I mean, Denny Hamlin has spun out Chase Elliott at Martinsville. Arguable if that was on purpose. But Denny Hamlin's been spun out at Martinsville by Alex Bowman. That was probably an accident, but that did happen. Like, we've seen spins for the win, bump and runs for the win. We haven't, at least in a long time, in my opinion, seen just blatant, 3-4 car lengths back, way overdrive the corner, ship the guy up the track, and then turn left into another guy. Like, we've never seen two incidents in one corner. And even the first one, the Logano one, like, does that, like, to you, is that just moving a guy or spinning a guy, or is that going in there with reckless abandon?
I mean, he wrecked him to try to win the race, and again, those things happen. That is going to happen somewhere this Saturday night at a track somewhere in some late model series or somewhere. It will happen, and it's just kind of part of the sport. And again, like I think it should just be in the driver's hands to make those decisions. And you can be mad at Austin and be like, oh, it's too much, whatever, and that's fine. That's like part of the entertainment, and like that's part of it. If you make a rule, like, well, then now it becomes too much. So then, like, again, like you talk about the Bowman situation or Hamlin wrecking Chase Elliott for the win. So now, are there going to be penalties for that now? Right. So, and then what if it was like, it was just a total accident. I tried to make a move. He moved to protect. I was in the corner too far. I can only slow down so much. I hit him. It was racing for the win. Right. So, like, now where's that line? So I feel like you can't really just make a rule in there. I just feel like you're just opening the door for a lot more problems, where it needs to be on the drivers to race respectfully. And you just have to know that sometimes they're going to go over the limit and it's going to cause this drama, which what we're dealing with now. So that would be what my take on it is. It's right. Like, it's like, okay, we all know it was too much. We all know it was too much.
You're saying let the drivers handle it themselves.
They have to handle it themselves, because if you put another rule in there, it's just going to open up the door for more people to be mad at NASCAR in a situation where it was a total accident, a total racing deal, and they make a call. And they're not all, everyone's human. They're not always going to get it right all the time. But that's also why we're there to watch the race and watch the excitement of what is going to unfold at the end of these races that creates some crazy excitement, right? And I do think, obviously, he cleaned out two cars in one corner. I don't think the second one was on purpose. I really you can't see anything in those cars. He just got the 22 out of the way. He's looking this. There's so much happening in that moment, and it's so intense. And he's like coming to the line to win a cup race. You can't see. And so he's coming down, and the 11's coming up, and they hit. I really think that one was just a total accident on his part. And although it was bad, I believe what he said when he was interviewed, like, I can't see him coming. I just did this. I'm looking there. Now I'm looking this way. And then boom, now we're hitting. It just happens so fast that there's no, so I do think that was just a total accident. Had that not happened, the 11 would have won the race. So then what happens? Is there any penalty if the 11 beats him?
Yeah, that's a good question.
We're probably not even talking about this.
That's a great point. Well, so I'm with you in principle that I don't want NASCAR to feel the need to make more big gray area calls. Like, that part I get. But I guess as a fan, there was a moment in 2014, I remember watching as a kid, they introduced the knockout round playoff format. And that year, we saw guys like Ryan Newman ship Kyle Larson at Phoenix for a spot in the championship four. 2015, Kevin Harvick wrecked half the field at Talladega to preserve a playoff spot. That same year, we saw Logano and Kenseth. Like, it was like instant. The moment the knockout round format was introduced, drivers made crazy moves. We've seen up until the last couple of years, trucks last year, Hyman Hocevar at Phoenix. That was ugly. Ty Gibbs spinning his teammate at Martinsville 2 years ago in an Xfinity race for no reason. That was ugly. Kevin Harvick spinning Kyle Busch at Martinsville in 2020 for us to try and get a spot. Like, we see so many of these moves lately that I guess my take is that the format doesn't really police itself, because winning that race and getting the playoff berth, people have said you probably know better than me, it's the $2 to $3 million difference at the end of the year compared to where RCR was in points previously. Like, that's everything. you're rewarded actually for aggressive driving. And now the car doesn't either, because the car's more indestructible. You can make bonsai moves on Joey Logano that you maybe couldn't have made 4 or 5 years ago without damaging your own car, blowing the radiator out of it or something, and limping to the finish yourself. Like, I just think because the format and the car doesn't police things, that at some point NASCAR is going to have to make more of these decisions. They don't want to. Fans don't really want them to, but I guess just, you talk about the line between sport and entertainment. We want a mix of both. I just fear the last few years the line has leaned more towards entertainment. And when you're talking about your season-long points format and champion, you want that to be decided primarily by sport, I guess, less by your reckless driving, over aggressive moves. So, like, I mean, NASCAR, I think, sort of came down almost on the fence. Like, they said, hey, Austin Dillon's the winner of that race. He gets the trophy. I guess he gets the purse money that comes with it. He'll be in the record books as the winner, but that's not going to decide who makes the playoffs at year's end. Like, NASCAR sort of sat on the fence with their ultimate decision, I feel, which is why people are still debating it a week later.
Yeah, but that's my point though. Like, do you like that though? That they can just be like, nah, he won, but like, no.
I
Like you
don't
can't I don't think and here's the thing. On the entertainment part of it, if we take all that out and you say, okay, just none of that anymore, and it's like totally their judgment call, and say Joey Logano just wins that race, that nothing happened in that race.
it's
So
not the most
nothing
viral.
happened.
That's
So
true.
like that's what I'm saying is in at the end of the day to have these discussions, to create this entertainment, to create this drama, because racing, is drama, and it's always been that way. There's always been rivalries and dramas and people doing things that maybe not all the fans agree with. So, but if you just eliminate that, now what do we got? What do you have? I mean, we just have cars racing, and then and I mean nothing happens really. They run around, they run the 500 miles, and what? There's no really lots of beating bang.
Well,
There's no like, is he going to move this guy out of the way to get it? What's going to happen? Is it you just taking that out of it? So I don't really like that either.
I don't think it's quite that far. I think NASCAR, by setting this precedent, says, hey, you can't just blatantly go into a corner and take someone out. There's like, sure, there's going to be moments. Do you remember 2 years ago when Joey Logano knocked William Byron out of the way for him? Do you remember that? It was at Darlington. Do you remember that race? So
Yes.
that would be borderline, because he only wrecked one car, I guess. It's not like he came flying in from out of the picture, but like, he did go into that corner with the sole purpose of knocking Byron out of the way. If he wrecks, he wrecks. Like, that would be a
Yeah.
borderline call, but I don't think NASCAR is now going to start policing, just bump and runs. If a guy's all over someone's bumper and they come together and someone spins, I don't think they're going to police that. I just think this was NASCAR saying, hey, you can't blatantly ship it in there and wreck somebody or right rear someone, intentional or not. Like, we are going to draw a line there to a degree. Again, Austin Dillon's still the winner. I know he doesn't get most of the perks that come with winning the race, but like, he is still the winner. So I am with you on this. I'll agree with you on it, because I do think NASCAR ultimately made a good call and should make these calls going forward if it's going to be this extreme. But I agree with you that NASCAR making this call mid-season, when there's really been no recent precedent for these kinds of decisions, is a little screwy. I would rather them have
Yeah.
waited until the offseason and said, okay, boys, 2024, a little unhinged. How about 2025 going forward? We will potentially step in. I guess drivers will say, all right, we'll believe it when we see it, but at least you're establishing a new precedent at the start of a new season. Because Austin Dillon, I don't know that he races any differently if there had been an established precedent, because all he could see is, I need to win this race and we'll figure it out later. But it is kind of unfortunate that NASCAR sort of enforced a rule that they haven't
Yes.
enforced in years, in
Yeah.
this instance. And that's inconsistent, that I understand people don't like.
Yes, I don't. Yeah, I just, but and I think too, the three car was the best car at the end of the night.
Yeah.
He was going to win the race if, Ricky Stenhouse doesn't do Stenhouse things and wreck someone for that's not even for position for like 30th. I don't even, I like,
Yeah, exactly. That's
he
the thing
wins
is,
the race. It's just like, so like in his mind, it's too like, it's like, I'm didn't have the best restart. I'm not losing this race. I just get like, I can't afford to give this up. When am I going to be in this position again? We talked about the week before about RCR. They've been struggling. Now he's got a chance to win this race. He has to do it. And it creates this wild moment that is going to be remembered for like forever. But then it's not, doesn't go to the playoffs. You're taking stuff away. And it's just kind of like, well, okay. it just kind of takes away from that moment in my opinion. But I get like you don't want people just destroying people to make it into the next round or to win a race. Again, like you're saying, we've seen this a million times, and there hasn't been any calls really. Granted, no one cleaned out two of them in the last corner, but we've have still seen this before, and there were no rules made, and now this one's not going to count for them to make it to the playoffs. I just kind of don't know if
Yeah.
I fully am on board with that. Again, NASCAR makes all the rules. They decide. They've done this. This is how they police things. So they've decided it. We all know now, but I do think it's kind of a bummer, like you're saying too. Like, well, he didn't know that going into it and
Yeah.
decided to do it, and then now it doesn't even now it's for nothing.
Yeah.
So
So,
it's like, okay,
if nothing else, they've established somewhat of a new precedent going forward, and there will probably be in the next few years or sooner, there will be a controversial call or no call, and we'll have the same conversation. So, I think there will still be aggressive driving. I don't think drivers are now scared to contact each other. It's just, it is now everyone just kind of knows you're at the whim or you're at the mercy of however race control or Elton
besides,
Sawyer or whoever it is that makes these calls. You're at the mercy of what they're seeing that day. And I wish, if NASCAR is going to set this new precedent and make these kinds of calls, I hope they are empowered to make those calls in the moment, or at least within 10, 15, 20 minutes of the incident, as opposed to waiting 72 hours to finally make a ruling. Like that, that's the
well, it
kind of
should be obvious, right? It should be an
yes.
obvious call. If you're going to make a
It
call, it should be okay. Obviously,
Yes, and if it's
that's
not
wrong.
obvious, to your point earlier, if it's not
Can't make the
obvious,
call.
you can't make the call. I
Can't make
think
the
you
call.
err on no call. So
Yes,
hopefully it's straightforward going forward, but we both know it probably never will be.
correct.
But here,
Because it creates drama, Eric, and the
yes,
drama is entertainment. Remember
uh,
TNT when NASCAR TNT, we know drama, and that's why they have the NASCAR races on there
and
because that's
and
what
they're
this is.
and they're back.
You
Yes.
know?
So, well, I love that we're it's a week later and we're still talking about that. Still a hot button issue. We're recording this just after the Monday Michigan race. Congratulations to Tyler Reddick, by the way, getting the win, finally breaking through. He's the hottest driver in Cup right now. Another announcement from this weekend, though, was that Haas Factory Team has signed both Sam Mayer and Sheldon Creed to drive their Xfinity Series cars next season. Brendan, what do you make of that? I was surprised. You got a Gibbs
Yeah,
guy and a JRM guy heading to Ford. How about that?
I was surprised. I had heard a bunch of different rumors about those seats and wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen there. Can't say I had maybe Sheldon Creed, but I can't say I had Sam Mayer going over there. So I think it's an interesting call. But I think the Haas cars in Xfinity have been super fast. I mean, the 98 has been like, whoa, fast everywhere they go. The double zero has been right there every week. Of course, they won Pocono, won Indy. Again, Michigan, another similar type track. They were both super fast again, of course, getting caught up in wrecks. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be in some fast cars for sure. And I think it'll be a nice change for both of those guys. I mean, I still think Sheldon in the Gibbs car will win a race. Again, so close again this past
It's
weekend in Michigan.
11 second place finishes now without a win in the Xfinity
It's
Series.
it's wild, man. It's
Yeah.
wild. But I think he will get there. I think he'll
Yep.
get there. And if not this year, I think he will at Haas too. And I think Sam, I think he's looking for a little bit of a refresh. He seemed to be struggling here a little bit as of late. I'm not sure why that is. But I'm curious to see what he'll be able to do in there in that car. But I think it'll be good. I think it's fine moves for both drivers. I thought Sam might be trying to make a jump to Cup, but looks like he's going to stay for another year in Xfinity.
What do you see racing? Because you race Sam Mayer every week. You're often racing even for position in the top 10, 15. Like I like Sam a lot. We've seen him break through and start winning races consistently. But like I was looking at the numbers, he got caught up in one of the big wrecks at Michigan. He's 13th in points, which I don't know, for a junior motorsports car, that's not great. Like that just tells me that kind of proves what my eyes are seeing, that he's a little inconsistent. And I feel if you're 21 years old and still that inconsistent, you're probably not quite ready to make the jump to Cup. I don't know. Do you see anything different from Sam?
I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I think Sam is fast and definitely has the talent to do it. I think, I mean, there's a lot of factors, right? I mean, he's and again, winning races now is what puts you in playoffs. And I feel like once you've won a race, it's just kind of like you put it all on the line all the time to just
That's
win
true.
another one, and it doesn't really matter if you wreck or whatever. So it's like I think it's just like the way the racing is now. I mean, I even look at the 98, he's won a race, but he's been kind of inconsistent too, but then shows like flashes of crazy speed and just like will win an Indy or like what he did last year and wins Vegas. And you're just kind of like, okay, I don't, and he's definitely probably going to be in a cup car next year. Or I think he'd have been back in the 98 again. So, um, I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing to discuss. But yeah, it's like flashes of speed for Sam, and then he'll win a race or go on a run, and then sort of like they struggle a little bit or get caught up in wrecks, and then that kind of throws you out of your rhythm, and then you got to get going again, and it's
Sure.
just kind of like one of those things. But I don't know. When you can say the same thing about Sheldon on the other side of it, it's like, man, 11 second place finishes. He's been pretty consistent. He's had some issues here and there and things out of his control, or maybe some races where they just didn't have the speed, didn't run good, which is surprising in the Gibbs car. But then again, he'll have those races where it's like, okay, he's just ran in the top five like multiple weeks in a row and like still hasn't won the race. But like he's got to be knocking on that door, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a tough call to make.
My only concern with Creed now, because I've been a little hard on him on my show sometimes, just because he hasn't won a race, and I just talk about like in other news recently, Connor Zilic is heading to Junior Motorsports full time. I know he's 18 years old, but like I look at him as one of these top prospects who could fly through the ranks, similar to a Hocevar or to Ty Gibbs, for example, or William Byron. And Sheldon Creed at this point, I don't think is that guy. He's good. He's a truck champion, but he's not sealing the deal. Is there something up with that? My bigger question with Creed, or my concern with Creed, is this will be his third team and third manufacturer in 3 years. Like I get that at this point there is really no such thing as manufacturer loyalty. I mean, shoot, Sam Mayer's been a Chevy guy for years. He's jumping to Ford next year out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like you can jump between teams and manufacturers
Yes.
whenever your contract is up. That doesn't mean a ton. But if you do have a manufacturer in your corner, like who's really invested in you, if it's Chevy, it's Toyota, Ford, like that can help you get that next opportunity. And I don't think Creed has that. He's a good driver, brings some funding to the table, but he doesn't have a single manufacturer going to bat for him. He's bouncing around from team to team. Like I guess at some point you'd hope that a young driver can find people he gels with and work with them, earn their trust, and that can be how you develop. And he hasn't seemingly done that, at least not in the Xfinity series.
It's tough, Eric, because we talk about this too, where it comes down to sponsorship money. And while manufacturers can say, "Hey, we would really like this guy to be in your car. We would like to keep
Yeah.
him in Chevrolet. We would like to keep him in Toyota or whatever." Um, at the end of the day, if that driver doesn't quite have the funding that the team is looking for, or another team makes them a better offer to try to get them or their funding to them, like like there's nothing they can do unless the manufacturer is going to put up money to keep them there, and that doesn't happen very often, like pretty much never. So it's that's a tough deal, right? And I've pretty much been with Chevrolet for most of my career, and I have a good relationship with them, and I've seen them at times be like, "Hey, we would like this person to really be in this car and stay in the Chevy camp and this type of deal." But at the end of the day, if it still comes down to sponsorship dollars
Sure.
and what the driver and the sponsors, or whether it's coming from family or other partners, like what they want to do. That determines a lot too, because we see a lot of times also, I'll just bring this up just as another side note, where we see guys who are like, well, why wouldn't they just pool all their sponsorship money and go run like 12 or 15 races in a Gibbs car in Xfinity and just see if they can do it? Well, sometimes they have a sponsor that's spending a certain amount of money and they want X amount of races, and they just simply can't get that at another team. But what are they going to do? Just not race? Or are they going to take that money and go try to perform in what's available to them? Like, you just have to do what you have to do, for what you have around you and what the people who are supporting you want to do. And so that kind of plays into things too, and how these silly seasons work, where we're like, whoa, what's an interesting move, or what's going on with that, or this or whatever. And there's just so many different elements into what ends up making the deal happen.
Yeah, like I mean, Sam Mayer to Haas up until a few days ago, I don't think anyone would have seen that coming. And we don't know truly. Was maybe JRM looking to go in a different direction? Did Sam Mayer's sponsors want something different? Did Haas offer him a deal he could not refuse? Did Ford offer? Like there's a lot of behind the scenes movement that unless you're truly in there, you're truly in the know in those discussions, you're not probably going to find out, at least not until maybe many years later. But
Yeah.
Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed, and I did mention it in there, Connor Zilic, all full-time Xfinity next year. Zilic going to Junior Motorsports. Before we bring Rajah in, Brennan, what can you tell us about your 2025 plans? I don't know if there is anything. We've talked a little bit
Yeah.
off the air, but just like just in general, broadly speaking, how's your pursuit for 2025 going so far?
Well, I think it's been an exciting time for me. I think there's some opportunities out there for me that I'm excited about. Of course, there's an opportunity for me to stay in the 44, which I've had a great year, and without them, I don't think some of these other teams and people would be looking at me because we've just had one heck of a season. We've been very consistent, finishing races, stacking points. Not tearing up race cars, and it's put us in this position where, hey, man, we're talked about every week there for a while on being a team that like, hey, a couple things go their way. They might be like right on the cusp here, and we could be in danger if we don't start also stacking points. So it was fun to be in that position, and I've really enjoyed working with Tommy Joe and Caesar and Frank Kerr, my crew chief, all my guys on my team. We've got a special bond, and it's been just so much fun. I've just really enjoyed it. So I've loved everything about this year. Obviously, you always want more results and you want to finish better, and we're continually working to try to find more speed in our cars. But at Alpha Prime, we're not a Chevrolet partner team. We run Chevrolet, and we get some sim time where the drivers get to work on the sim, but our cars aren't scanned and put in the sim. We can't run any. Our engineers, we're doing everything kind of the old school way. We don't can't even run our cars through simulations and make adjustments or try things or figure loads out or any of that. We're kind of on our own, and we don't have leased engines, so all the engines are owned by the team. So it's just kind of one of those deals where we're up against a lot, and I feel like this year we really punched above our weight and put ourselves in some great positions and almost won a race. And I know we have a couple more chances at a couple of these speedways to maybe have it go our way. And I'm excited about Bristol too, a short track where Alpha Prime's run really good at in the past. So feeling like we'll have a strong car there. But yeah, it's just without them, and your guys and your team and working together, it doesn't create more opportunities for you. And this year, I feel like I've been able to show when I'm in the zone and I'm on my game and I have good people around me that are working really hard for results that I can get the job done. And so I think that's probably maybe refreshed me and some other team owners' eyes. So I'm excited about what could happen, but also know that I'd really enjoy being back in the 44 again too if that was the case. But I'm excited to see what happens. It's still kind of early, but stuff is moving right now, and so excited to see how things shake out.
Yeah, no, it is still early for Xfinity. I mean, Cup, the picture's becoming pretty clear, but like we just spent 15 minutes talking about Sam Mayer and Sheldon Creed because that really is one of the first big Xfinity series moves to fall into place. I think they're the first like notable team to really have their roster publicly set for next season. There are openings across the board. So yeah, that's good to hear, Brennan. Good to hear a little update on your 2025 plans. But with that being said, Brennan, what do you say we introduce Rajah Caruth onto Power Hour?
Yeah, let's do it.
Brendan, we are now joined by the one and only Rajah Caruth. Rajah, thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's been a while since we've gotten a chance to chat. Now you're a Truck Series playoff contender. We'll ask you about the playoffs here in a short bit. But first and foremost, man, how you been doing? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm good, Eric. Good to see you. Thank you guys for having me on. It's kind of cool to see how your brand has grown over the last decade and some change, and it's been really cool to see. So, I think for myself, feel like we're in a pretty good spot and excited to go to the racetrack this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. Brendan, appreciate you being here as well, as always. Should be a lot of fun. Rajah, I met you, I think, for the first time, I want to say it was 2018 or 2019. At that point, do you remember how long you'd been driving actual race cars at that point?
2019 literally was my first year outside of like rental go-karts. That was literally my first year driving anything in real life.
Gosh.
Ran my first legend car races. I tested a late model for the first time that fall. And I had only been iRacing or sim racing for a year prior. So I was very green at that time and just starting my senior year of high school. yeah, finishing up track and field, getting ready to apply for college, and starting to race.
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. I kind of just wanted to start there. Like, if you go back to 2019 when you were making your first laps in a race car, did you envision it getting this far, especially this far this soon?
I don't know if I necessarily. I think for a lot of us race fans, you grow up being really obsessed with the sport, from reading about it, watching races on TV, on YouTube, going to the racetrack, playing games, getting diecast, creating your own affinity and passion for the sport. And you always have that passion to want to try to drive, but it almost never, pans out. So for me, since I started that late, I was surprised really to have that opportunity. But I think as I got into it, I just was super hyper focused on doing the best that I could. I think that's really it. I wasn't that good to start by any means. And it took a lot to kind of get competitive in sim racing and then competitive in real life, and start to really show that I could, move up the ladder, in a timely manner. So,
Yeah. Well, I'll let Brennan jump in here in a second, but I had one other question. I remember reading that you sort of became hooked on NASCAR, a big fan of stock car racing when you went to your first race at Richmond Raceway. What do you remember about that race specifically, or just that experience of seeing NASCAR in person for the first time?
so that was a really special day just because I think before then I was a really big fan of the sport, period. And I'd watched it on Saturdays and Sundays. I would watch the NASCAR Now show on ESPN,
Mm.
Race Hub, the Speed Channel, like be just taking in every little bit of the sport that I could from YouTube and from television. And so I was surprised that my parents, presented to me to we got out of school on a Friday and drove down to Richmond with my late granddad and my sister, and it was a great experience. Richmond, like the grandstands are largely the same. It's been renovated since then. There used to be a Ferris wheel off of turn 3, I believe.
Oh yeah.
So my sister and I, went up there, and that was a really cool night. Just because I think I'm sure you guys can empathize with this of just watching it and being a fan of it for such a long time, and then seeing it in your with your own eyes, and being having that experience in real life for the first time is really special. So from that day forward, I was 12 years old, when I went to that race, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I think that's like the coolest part about getting the opportunity to race in NASCAR is like you can remember being a kid and going to the races and watching on TV and dreaming of having the chance to be able to be one of those guys and then to be able to do it. It's just like, yeah, you just something you never forget. But I want to talk about, the success you've had this year, getting that big win at the start of the year in Las Vegas, and sort of how that affected you mentally, but also maybe the impact that you see that having on your career.
Yeah, Brandon, I think for everybody that races is an adjustment compared to being an athlete in other sports, because in racing you just don't win as much as you do in literally any other sport, right? I think in basketball, I think in track, you're winning your heats, you're winning races, you're winning games. You're I think an adjustment that I had to have compared to playing other sports. So to really to flashback to last year, racing with Alpha Prime, racing with GMS, and getting that start with Hendrick at Phoenix, my future was not set in stone literally till the first week of February of this year. Didn't sign the contract till that week. The sponsorship from HendrickCars.com didn't get situated, and so there was a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that were going on in the winter here at Spire, and I was just hoping to be here to be able to drive. I mean, I was coming to the shop pretty much every day, and didn't know if I'd be racing full time, part time, what I'd be able to do. And so luckily, things really panned out with Chevrolet and GM, to where I got the chance to race, and to have success that early in the season and start it how we did was just great, because I felt like the people that gambled on me to give me this opportunity kind of got kind of a bang for their buck there. And I think for myself, because you try so hard as a driver during the week to kind of put yourself in the best position to to race and do the best job you can on Friday, Saturdays, or Sundays. And so when it pans out, when it all works out for you in your favor, and as y'all know, so much happens in the races, right? There's untimely cautions, there's running over a thumbtack, there's, people, running in the back of you, or you making mistakes. There's so many things that are out of your control. So when things kind of work out your way, it's super special. So, and that's great. We locked into the playoffs and kind of figured out what it takes to win races. And so I'm excited for the next 8 weeks.
Do you feel like it's built some confidence for you and your guys? I was at that race. I was in the stands and watched the whole thing. And I just remember watching you, just absolute perfect performance with zero mistakes, good on pit road, good on every restart, made great decisions, good passes, and I'm sure good adjustments during the race too, that put you in position to win. Does that just like build confidence in yourself? And then also maybe did you notice a change with your guys and the guys around you? Like, okay, we can do this now. We're a winning team. We won together. Let's go see what we can do here the rest of the year and what we can do in the playoffs. And you're kind of getting ready. I mean, you got to be having your eyes on what you guys can accomplish and try to win this championship this year. So how do you look at all of that?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, this is my second year working with my crew chief, Chad Walter, and it's been great to kind of develop that relationship, not only business wise, but personally. And he knows we talked about before the year of our strengths and weaknesses, in terms of my driving, in terms of the schedule, and kind of goals that we set. And we knew that the mile and a half, the faster racetracks, with progressive banking, with different grip levels, like that's kind of my bread and butter. And the short tracks, the flat tracks, it was the things that I needed to work on. And so I feel like we've improved at those places in particular that I've been wanting to get better at. And so I think for Las Vegas, it was really important because I think my team as a whole believed in me, and to have that celebration and have that night kind of go well for us, I think it was great because our shop guys, right? They work here, 7 to 4 every day, sometimes longer, job on the weekends. And so to have those moments where they can celebrate is really big. So I think it was also great for Spire as a company and the sport as a whole, just to see how many people it touched. But I think for my team, I got a really good group of people around me that have just been kind of uplifting me and giving me the resources that I need to continue to get better at my weaknesses and strengthen my strengths.
Can you talk a little more about the atmosphere at Spire? Because from a fan's perspective looking in, this team's expanding rapidly, having success with you in trucks. We just got done watching the Michigan Cup race. They had 2 cars finish inside the top 10. Like, it looks like this is a team really on the rise. So how does that impact the atmosphere week to week in the shop?
Yeah, it's definitely infectious. I think it's just a great place to work, right? Like we have, free lunch on Wednesdays for everybody, all the shop guys and gals, and the upstairs folks as well, to just treating people with respect and having a professional but comforting and accepting work environment. I think it's been great to be here, and I think our success on the truck side has been infectious on the cup side because as you kind of alluded to, everything's kind of been on the uptick from how Carson's been running to Corey and Zane having good runs from time to time as well. It's just a great place to be at, and so I'm excited to finish out the year here and hopefully be back next year.
Absolutely. I do want to take things back for just a moment. We talked about your early love for NASCAR and when you first got behind the wheel of a race car. But at what point did you realize? I asked this of a lot of young drivers we've had on the show, but I do find it interesting. At what point did it hit you that you could turn this into a career? Like, do you remember if there was like a turning point in your early days?
Honestly, I think it didn't really. I never really felt like that until I started racing ARCA. Because when I raced late models, it was post COVID, and so basically like the field sizes weren't as strong, and you could only run at a few racetracks would be open, and so and I wasn't racing in the Cars Tour, and I didn't necessarily get to run at the big shows at Kenley. I tried Martinsville a few times. I didn't go to Myrtle Beach or the big Florence races, so that was kind of a a different sample size in terms of like how competitive I was because of not racing against, like look at the car store nowadays. Like you have Brendan Queen, you have Connor Hall, you have Deke McCaskill, you have so many ringers. And then you have guys like Brent, like Zillage, Mozak, Quaffle, all those guys that are younger that are just doing really good and gonna elevate them to race, ARCA, Trucks, Xfinity, and eventually Cup. So for me, it didn't really click until I was racing ARCA, and my we went to Dover in 21. Well, before that, we raced Pensacola, and I ran pretty decent. I got to second, but kind of fell off, on a late race restart, and so at that time, right, which is now how ARCA is, where you have your Gibbs cars, you have all the Cup affiliated teams that are really good, and then you have the Rev cars and Red Jones and like teams that don't have those alliances, and they still we got help from time to time, but definitely didn't have the resources and the budget and what the other teams had, right? So anytime you ran with those guys, whether it was the Venturini cars, the Gibbs cars, the DGR cars, at the time, it was a big deal and good. So we went to Dover in 21, and I ended up blowing a right front tire, so I didn't finish the race. But I ran third to Ty Gibbs and Josh Berry, and so that was my first moment of like, wow, like I'm like this is legit. There's no excuses. There's no moving the goalposts. Like I actually ran competitively, right? And we go to Bristol late in the year, racing against Corey up front and Taylor Gray and Nick, which is funny. We were teammates at Rev and teammates now, so that's pretty cool. But I'd say when I was racing ARCA, that was probably when it really hit me of like I can actually like I'm actually competitive, and I'm not just racing in fields of 10 or 12 or 15 cars. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that Dover race, and I remember like that was sort of the moment everyone was like, "Oh, okay, this Rajah kid is legit." A lot of people had heard your name, knew who you were, but I think that really said a lot. So that's kind of cool to hear you call back to that race all these years later. Brendan, I had a couple final questions for Rajah. Did you have any that you wanted to get ahead on here?
I mean, everyone always asks this question, and it's like always. I feel like I've been asked this question so many times, but where do you sort of see yourself? It's hard to look so far out into the future, right? Because you're developing and you're building and you're having success, and there's a lot of different things that can happen because you and I both know this racing world is crazy, and you got to have sponsorship money, and you kind of need to be in the right place at the right time, and you've been able to do that so far. But sort of, do you have goals and expectations that you're looking at? Maybe 5 years from now, like where do you see yourself, and sort of how you see your career like moving forward through this over the next several years?
Um, I think last year I was too focused on like the next thing and like where I wanted to be, and I didn't do the best of maximizing kind of where I was at, and so that really kind of registered for me this winter because I legitimately didn't know if I was gonna, race full time this year, and so I think my main focus I think is this year is the playoffs, right? Because a lot of guys, I can think of 4 or 5 guys that have had better years than me, right? The 19, the 11, the 98, the 2. But it doesn't really mean anything when you get to the playoffs. Everybody's reset, right? They've got, bonus points, and we have some as well. But we have a really good chance to go and make a deep run at this. And so that's my main focus. Because I don't think it's a matter of who deserves it. It's about who goes and earns it. So for me, my focus is to make it to Phoenix this year. And then when we get there, obviously, I think for me, I just try to do things the right way. You see people asking, what would you do to get a final spot, to do whatever it takes, right? But some people have morals. I would say I have morals.
Yeah, Eric and I are just talking about that,
Yeah.
but I think that's a great question, or a great answer to the question, and that's something I've learned, as my career has gone on too. I just take it one day at a time, and I literally just focus on the next race, and I try to do the best possible job that I can, and let the results speak for themselves, and try to let God take care of the rest, and
For
open
sure.
those doors when the timing is right. So no, I think that was a great answer to that question.
Yeah. Well, my final question for you, Rajah, we're going to end with sort of a fun one. I know you are a Disney Pixar Cars fan like myself. It's fun.
For
Brennan,
sure.
Brennan, I don't get to talk to many drivers younger than me, so this is like exciting. Like my generation is starting to make it. Anyway, Raja, my final question for you: what is the best Cars movie?
Okay, this is I talk about this a lot.
All right.
I like this question. Okay, so there's different schools of thought, right? So the first Cars movie is great because it explains racing in a way that is digestible and you understand
True.
like the basics of what NASCAR is. So Cars is really good for that reason, and it's just a great movie. Great character development for Lightning McQueen. I
Yeah.
feel like I don't know a lot of drivers personally, but I could say his character arc of like from being like, I almost said a bad word, for not being a necessarily good person to being like nice at the end or respectful. I think the same can be said for different drivers. I think the second movie, if you think about when it came out in like 2011. So at that time there was a lot of like midsummer, just like random Hollywood movies of like
Transformers
spy movies
4 and
yeah,
Mission
stuff like that.
Impossible, and yeah, it had to fit in. I see what you're saying.
It fit in very well to that time, especially like I remember in my youth of like the movies that were out at that time. Like it fit, no real plot like affecting
rhyme or reason to it, really.
yeah, literally just like just a fun summer
Sure,
side quest.
That's the nicest review I think I've ever heard of Cars 2.
Yeah, because everybody hates it. I'm like, bro, y'all are taking this way too serious. It's literally just a side quest. It's not that deep. But the third one is great because it's really like what racing is now, where it's like how it's evolved, and it's nice because it still kind of pays tribute to the history kind of racing, which I think a lot of teams and a lot of people still try to do. But sometimes I think gets lost in a few things. But I like the third one. I see some similarities from my career in the third one as well. That's pretty nice. I also heard they're making a fourth one, so I can't wait for that to come out.
At some point they'll have to. I mean, they all make so much money. Like it's a no-brainer, right? But yeah, I like that. I feel like Cars 3 is like the most racing movie of them, you know, like it's very focused on the history, the progression, and it does speak to, you know, what veteran drivers might be dealing with today, or in the case of younger drivers who are working their way up the ladder. It's a great movie. It's a great franchise. Brendan, have you seen the Cars movies?
I've seen them all, but like I probably haven't seen them as many times as you
us,
guys
yeah.
have to like to give like a fair review on it. But
that's good. Okay.
Obviously anything racing related, I just like. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I still think Cars 1 is my favorite one. You know.
Yeah. I only found out recently that Michael Keaton plays Chick Hicks. I had no idea that they had a.
That actually makes so much sense.
Yeah, I had no idea, but he does a great job. Great villain. Anyway. Raja, really appreciate you taking some time out of your week to talk Cars, not like car, you know, like talk the movie Cars.
Yeah.
What a pun.
Yeah, I wasn't intentional. Why did they name it Cars? They could have named it anything. Anyway, Raja, really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, and good luck this weekend and with the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series playoffs, man. We'll be rooting for you.
Thanks, guys. Talk to y'all later.
Really huge thank you to Rajah for stopping by and chatting with us here on Power Hour. That was a lot of fun. Brendan, before we get to our final fan question segment, I want to shout out Circle B Diecast one more time. Again, use code OOTG for discounted shipping at circlebdiecast.com. Really appreciate their support. And again, one more time, this Friday, 4:30, you can come see us at Daytona. We'll be at the NASCAR Experience stage, joined by Younger One. You can hear us talk, hear him perform. So it should be a great time ahead of the Xfinity Series race this weekend. Brendan, we've got some good fan questions here. Some very random, miscellaneous fan questions, but this is what the people wanted to know. So we'll start with this one. This one comes from Big Hand 1530. I think they've asked us a few questions already in the last couple of years, but they ask, how big are you, me, and Brennan into marine biology? That's one topic I could go on forever about, but I know not everyone is going to be on the same page. Brennan, how do you feel about marine biology?
I mean, I wish this was something I knew more about, right? But I mean,
what's your favorite? Do you have like a favorite ocean creature, like animal?
Man, I mean, I really like tuna, you know. I gotta throw that one out there because that's just funny. No, I mean I've always loved Shark Week and I love the
Ooh,
Discovery Channel and watching all that stuff. I used to love River Monsters too. That show was awesome. So I mean I love fish. I love the ocean. I just did a trip to the ocean, hung out in the water. I saw some jellyfish, saw a couple of fish. Couldn't name them. Probably need to know more about my marine biology, but no, I mean I think it's fun. I love all those shows. Anytime you can like watch something and like learn something back, which is what I think is so great about Shark Week. Although Discovery Channel, you guys are starting to get a little crazy with some of the shark shows, but you know you still learn a lot of stuff and it's always really fun. So and the ocean is such a wild place, man. It's so much weird stuff down there,
I know
man, that
it's
we
crazy.
don't
There's
know
like
about.
it's like 90 something percent of the ocean has not been explored by humans. Like that's some scary
Crazy.
that's scary stuff right there. We know more about Mars than we do the ocean. I don't know. That's probably not true. But my point is the ocean is one giant unknown. I would Sharks are one of my favorite animals. Um, that's about the extent of my marine biology
Okay.
knowledge. We had like a goldfish, or no, not a goldfish. What are they called? We had a beta fish as a pet when I was a kid. I don't
I had a
remember.
beta fish
I
too,
don't
but I mean,
remember
there's
its
not much
name.
going on there, pal.
Yeah,
They're
that was
just like living in a tiny bowl. You feed them a couple of little flakes. You call it good. I had the water frogs before. They were pretty cool, and I had a big fish tank as well. But I
that's
mean,
kind
there
of
wasn't
fun.
was it? Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
work. You got to clean it. You got to
I
take care of
know.
the water. You got to make sure that it's a good environment for the fish to
Well,
live. And it's just like it's a lot of work, man. You
well,
know,
big hand,
gotta love your fish.
big hand 1530 under the comments of this video. You say you could go on forever about marine biology. Go for it. Leave us a novel. We will. I can't promise we'll read it on the show next time, but we'll at least read it to ourselves in the YouTube comment section. Next one. This one's just a specific question for me, I guess, from Dawn. Asks Eric, just wondering if all your collectibles, I guess talking about what I have in the background here on my show, are gifts or do you actually buy them? It's a mix. Some of these things absolutely have been gifted to me, but most of these things I bought. This nose right here, this blue Ford nose, is from Matt Kenseth's 2018 Wyndham car. I bought that. I also bought this 20 door from he raced at Sonoma in 2013. These helmets behind me were gifts from a sponsor. Most of these diecasts you see on this shelf are things that I bought over the years as a kid. I mean, I guess it's all kind of a mix.
Hey, I'm back there. There's one gift from you,
Yeah,
man.
there we go. Oh, that's a good call right there. This for our listening audience, they can't see it, but yeah, Brennan signed a really cool photo display of 2022 Phoenix. The car, the fire suit looks awesome. So yeah, it's a mix, definitely a mix. Very thankful to have different racing sponsors who've sent some cool stuff that really bring this studio setup to life. I say studio, it's a spare bedroom in my apartment. Like it's not, it doesn't feel that fancy. If I turned the camera that way, this room's an absolute dumpster fire. But from this angle, it looks okay. Final question. This is a good one to end on, Brennan. Logan asks or says you should do a pizza tier list. I don't know if they mean like
That's
pizza rest like chains or if they mean just like type
we,
of pizza. I
we
was gonna go.
probably have to do chains, right? Or we don't want to do chains.
I don't know.
We
Like
don't wanna make chains mad.
I don't.
There's so many chains watching the show, Eric. I don't want to make Domino's or Little Caesars or any of them mad at us. Okay, we can't have
We
it.
can do, but we can do. Let's just give like not a tier list. Let's give like our top three. Like here we go. Here's what I'm gonna do. Maybe let me know if this is good with you. Rank your top three specific pizzas you've had. Like you could say like I had like the stuffed crust meat lovers at Domino's is the best pizza I've ever. Like you can say specific. Like most of mine
Okay.
are probably more local stuff. Like there's a place. I don't want to give the name away because it's like right close to where my parents live, but there's like a local pizza shop in Houston that I love. That's delicious. That's probably my number one. I would go with like a deep dish Geno's East from Chicago. I get that it's generic, but I freaking love that stuff. That's probably my number two. And number three, I'll have to sit on that one. Brendan, do you have any that come to mind?
I mean, the number one for me, hands down, is Joe's Pizza in New York City in Greenwich Village.
Not
It's
bad.
absolutely the best slice of cheese pizza you'll ever have,
Mm,
period. I mean, there's a couple other good ones in the city that people will complain about, but if I'm saying like, hey, go get this slice, you're gonna say, yeah, this is like the one of the most iconic New York slices of pizza you can get. That's where I'm gonna send you. It's Joe's in Greenwich Village. If I'm gonna go. Number two, I'm just gonna go like chains here because like
Sure.
all local places are the places.
Exactly.
I want a Domino's pepperoni and sausage pan pizza.
Mm.
I'm gonna get some ranch. I'm gonna dip it in there. That's what you got to do. Number three, this is gonna be a wild one here, but hear me out. Jets, all right. Jets buffalo chicken. It's ridiculous. It is so good. It will blow your mind if you have a Jets nearby you and you want to have one of my favorite things when I'm just feeling like, let's throw all the health out the window. I'm getting the buffalo chicken pizza from Jets and I'm going to turbo crust it and I'm going to get their ranch. I'm going to put some ranch on it. Wow, unbelievable. But I'm a buffalo. I love buffalo sauce. I love buffalo wings. I like, whatever
Turbo
it is.
crust. I've
Yeah,
not
the
heard
turbo
of.
crust. There's like it's like Parmesan around it, or
Oh,
it's like a deep dish thing too, dude. It's unbelievable. So
that
good.
sounds delicious. I've not heard of Jets Pizza. I feel like I'm missing
Wow,
out now. That is unfortunate.
wow.
Yeah. I'm like blanking. Growing up, we ate a lot of
Number
Pizza
three,
Hut. Yeah, growing up, we,
pizza.
we ate a lot of Pizza Hut growing up. I did. There's some Pizza Hut I like. It was very hit or miss though. Shoot, man.
When they used to have the what do you like the buffet, and you could just go get
Yeah.
as you could, where you would like sit down as a
So
kid. They don't really do that as much anymore, but they had like a thin crust at Pizza Hut that was really good that I used to really like, but. I don't know. Eric, you come on, man. There's so many pizza places.
I
You didn't throw Domino's out there. Disappointing.
no, they're
You
good.
didn't.
As the chains go, they're up there. I will give you that. But
Yeah.
my problem is I don't eat very many. I don't eat as much pizza as I used to. Like when I would get like my first paychecks in high school, I would legit on a free Sunday night, I would order from Pizza Hut, and that would be how I'd spend my like $10 that week. Would be on my own giant Pizza
Oh
Hut
boy.
pizza. So I haven't done that in a while. There's some places around where we live that we like going to. There's a place called Rotolo's, makes a mix of really good pizzas. They have, it's kind of a variety. There's a place I used to go to in Austin when I lived there that did Detroit style pizza called Via 313, and it was delicious. I don't know how widespread that is. Maybe it's from Detroit. I don't know. What else is there? I mean, other chains. I'll be honest. This is gonna sound sacrilegious. You mentioned buffets. I love me a Cece's Pizza buffet. It's
It's the
trash.
same.
It's trash, but you can just plow through so many different
And
slices and not feel a thing.
and the cinnamon buns at the end,
It's
right? It's amazing. But
it.
here, I got to throw this out one more time, one thing, or I'm going to get in trouble because really my favorite pizza place that I get all the time is in Lindsay's hometown in the little strip mall, this place called Brothers. I go there the first second we get there, we go there immediately. Whether I get off the plane, I just drive straight there. I'm driving to town, I drive straight there. I go to Brothers. They treat us like family there. They have, that's probably my favorite place, period. But it's local. It's a local place in New Jersey. You're never going to know about it. But if you find yourself in Hamilton, New Jersey, for whatever reason, go to Brothers Pizza. Check it out. It's amazing. But I have to throw that out there because people will be like, "What? You didn't mention your actual favorite place?" So I have to do that.
Shout out to, and this place might be a chain. The name sounds like a chain, but I'm not sure that it is. It doesn't look like a chain, but in Phoenix, near the racetrack, it's actually in Goodyear, Arizona. I believe the place is called Taste of Italy. It might be a chain. Doesn't really look like it. You go in there, it feels very authentic Italian, a little strip mall place. I've been there a few times, and I go there every time I go to Phoenix Raceway now because they have a delicious, full, thick calzone, and I've had some of the other stuff
Oh
on their menu.
man,
It's very good. So
it's
shout out to
hard for me to
Taste of
turn down
Italy.
calzone.
Yeah, that was good. Good question to wrap things up, Logan. I am now officially hungry. Brennan,
Yeah.
any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode of Power Hour?
No, man, I'm hungry too. I'm gonna go eat dinner pretty quickly after this. And I hope to see all you guys at our live show in Daytona. Please come say hey. And also, Eric, man, let's just everyone, fingers crossed, throw some prayers up for the 44 going to Daytona. I mean, come on, you're a fan of the show, be a fan of me. Let's go win this race on Friday night.
Absolutely. I'll be rooting for you. You know that. Hopefully everyone watching and listening is rooting for the 44 as well. We will see you all at Daytona Friday. Only if you're watching this when it comes out like 3 days from now. Friday, 4:30. Come see us outside of Daytona International Speedway. We will see you then. Have a wonderful rest of your day, folks. Thanks for listening.